Lunar eclipses act like cosmic night vision, that infrared light revealing the hidden patterns we can't see under normal circumstances. Well, this Virgo total lunar eclipse won't just illuminate, it's going to reveal the unseen so you can peel back the layers and the patterns of perfectionism, self criticism, and control that block your flow and wholeness. In this episode, let's explore how this powerful lunar eclipse helps you see the unseen patterns holding you back so you can release, realign, and reclaim your wellness and flow. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for joining me again. There's so many new faces here. And if you're new, welcome to Star Powered. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your host, a multiracial, multifaceted professional musician turned web designer turned astrologer. Astrology helped me overcome an identity crisis by revealing my star-powered strengths. Now I use these strengths to guide healers, entrepreneurs, and changemakers like you in making your mark with ease and impact through astrology. If equitable leadership, making your mark, and astrology are also your jam, please subscribe to this channel and share with an astrology-loving bestie. All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of Star Powered. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your host, and we have so many episodes right now because March is just wild with all the things, just one after another after another. And indeed, this eclipse is just one part of this giant leap. Now, a full moon, when we have an eclipse during a full moon, it is called, of course, a lunar eclipse. And we have a treat. We have a total lunar eclipse, meaning if you can see the full moon on March 13th in the middle of the night, it's going to be 11:55 p.m. Pacific, but the eclipse is going to be much longer than that exact meeting point. If you are in the North America, South America, in the middle of the night, you are going to be able to see this eclipse. And when you see the moon, it is going to be blood red. This lunar eclipse at Virgo of 23 degrees sits across the Pisces sky and right next to the South Node in Virgo. Now, I say that lunar eclipses act like these cosmic X-rays or infrared lights, more like infrared lights because of that red blood moon. And we, as humans, we can't see infrared, we can't see ultraviolet, we can only see within our like really narrow perspective. And so when we get these eclipses, like a full moon, generally illuminates things between the axes of whatever signs we're playing with. Virgo, and Pisces. And during a regular full moon, we can illuminate our blocks, our challenges, make changes, celebrate the things that have come into fruition, look at all the things we're doing and prune back the things that are holding us back. Well, when we have these eclipses, these lunar eclipses, this goes to another next level because now we don't just see what we can see with our normal human eyes, but we get to see in that infrared level that what is hidden deeper that is blocking us. Now, of course, we look to the shadows of Virgo to see what is blocking us. We're all really familiar with the shadows of Virgo, the hypercriticism and the perfectionism and the control. But oftentimes, when we are trying to be this kind of perfect ideal for us, it's really hiding the shame that we don't feel good enough, that we need to act a certain way, conform a certain way into a certain way in order to be accepted and most of that acceptance is by us. And so this perfectionism is hiding the fear of failure and all that jazz, but if you peel back the layers, if you look with the infrared light, you're going to see shame hiding under there, especially when it comes with Pisces, when we're playing with this polarity of Virgo and Pisces. Now, the polarity of Virgo and Pisces ultimately want us to be whole, want us to be empathetic, want us to be compassionate, want us to be in this place of wellness where like I hate that the theme, but stick with me for right now, like a well-oiled machine. When we think in our businesses, Virgo represents our systems, but these systems and these processes in our businesses allow our business to run well, allow us to run without any kinks. Yes, There will always be kinks, there will always be updates, there will always be glitches, there will always be fixes, and that's okay. And so, in this episode, I really want us to explore how these eclipses will expose the shadows that you're holding on to in Virgo because of shame or that need for perfection, and how it prevents you from being into that divine flow of Pisces. We'll talk about really truly what flow means and what it doesn't mean, and how you'll discover how to shift from that harsh criticism into compassionate discernment. We're going to break outdated patterns here so that you can reclaim your wholeness and love all the parts of yourself. We're also going to explore the intense astrology. We have Mercury stationing in Aries that is going to go into reverse. That's adding to the intensity of the day of the eclipse. That is really saying, hey, push pause, reflect, resist the urge to react from frustration. I want to also offer you a guided visualization to help you to step into the eye of your personal power, where you can center yourself in calm while chaos spins around you, right? This world is a little bit wild right now. And then I also want to help you personalize your lunar eclipse reflections, whether you're doing a release ritual. I want to look at these reflections for each sign so that we can help you navigate these areas of your life being fully infrared illuminated. Whether you're Virgo or Pisces or any sign, I hope this episode helps you work with the Virgo Pisces polarity to bring balance and revelation to the critical analysis with compassionate flow. I want to leave you more easeful, more fulfilled, and more in flow. So, what exactly is an eclipse and what does it mean? Now, as I mentioned, lunar eclipses are about seeing the unseen, more powerful than a full moon illumination that highlights what's just in the shadows. A lunar eclipse or blood moon peels back the layers so we can see what lurks under and behind the shadows with that infrared vision. Now, because we're talking about perfectionism and hypercriticism and just being super, super detail oriented, yes, these attributes can bring us to success, can bring us to ever higher and higher achievements. Yet, they can also be an exhausting, heavy weight. You do not need to be perfect to be a leader or to be successful. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the more experiments you take, the further you will go and the greater you become. It's the friction in the challenge and the lessons from the experiments that get you into this place of flow where you'll be opened up to states that leave you fulfilled and your results polished. Now, the other day in my group Star Powered Circle, I was talking to one of my certification participants, Ishel Lunar. And Ishel Lunar, if you don't already know her, is a brilliant cosmologist, astrology practitioner, human design, branding. And what she does is really talk about the science of flow and how we can use our bodies, our cosmically designed bodies, to get into states of flow that allow us to achieve even better and greater heights. And what she reminded us about flow during our conversation is that flow isn't just about ease. In flow, you have to have just the right amount of challenge. Now, I'm super familiar with this idea of flow because I'm a classical musician. You might have heard me talk about my music career. I went to conservatory. I actually have a master's degree in music, and I'm still a professional musician. I play freelance in orchestras and operas in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I play with over the last 20 years as a nationally touring chamber musician. And to be able to get to these heights of being a professional classical musician, you know that I have spent well over 10,000 hours in the practice room playing my clarinet. Now, am I a perfect player? Absolutely not. I feel like I've been learning the same pieces for the last 20 years and never fully revealing them. But what really got me into making this an intrinsic habit of mine, part of my daily routine to practice, is that I loved playing the clarinet when I first started learning how, because it was easy enough where I knew where my fingers were, I could easily make a sound. It was satisfying, but it was also just the right amount of challenging. I remember working on different fingering positions, doing things over and over again, just until I just got it exactly how I wanted to be. I recognize now that I have a little bit of self competition, always wanting to like be my very best self. When it comes to competing with others, I get into comparison mode and I just kind of I choke, I fail, I crumble. But this idea of flow has really allowed me to rise through the ranks because I would spend hours with my clarinet practicing until I got my fingering and my rhythm and my technique, and then added the musical phrasing on top of each other. Now, I don't have to spend hours and hours of practicing, although in ensemble rehearsals, we do spend hours of practicing to align everything and fit all of those puzzle pieces. But I really, when I'm practicing at home, I get a flood of ideas because my brain is processing at this different level that even if I'm practicing the clarinet, learning a difficult passage, I'll be like, oh, I have this idea for this podcast. Oh, I have this idea for this course. Oh, I have this idea. And so I literally have to keep a notepad by my practicing stand so that I can be receptive to all these ideas that come in flow. And so in your leadership and in your work, I hope you have the tools also to get into those places of flow. You know, walking down the street, you can get into flow, being in the shower, you can get into flow, but in your creative process, you have to be doing something that you enjoy doing that gives you fulfillment, but is still a little bit challenging, that gets you into that place where all of a sudden time, space, everything dissolves. That's why flow is so Piscean. And so when you're thinking about this idea of Virgo perfectionism will cut you off from that place of flow because you're getting into this hypercriticism. Now, if I were practicing, when I even still to this day, if I get in my head and I'm getting super hypercritical, like you're never going to be able to do this, you suck, like why haven't you got this yet? You've been practicing this for decades and you still can't play it. I mean, that voice does come through. And if that voice comes through, that totally blocks my flow and I can't get anywhere. And so we're really looking at when that hypercriticism, when that voice starts shaming you, how we can like reveal and break those patterns. Sometimes they will exist, but to break a pattern is simply to recognize it very, very quickly and make a different response. At the time of a lunar eclipse, the Earth is in the middle of the sun and the moon, and the Earth casts a shadow of the sun's light onto the moon. Now, the sun in Pisces has the power and the brilliance and the radiance of empathy, having a larger vision of building a new world, and flow. But during an eclipse, it's shadowed precisely so that you can see what prevents you from being in this effective flow. In the Virgo shadows, this reddish hued moon conjunct the south node. The south node is our past collective patterns. The transiting south node are past patterns that is asking us to break free of those perfectionist, controlling patterns that keep us trapped in hypercriticism and the fear of failure, not being good enough. Let's take a look at the astrology of this Virgo lunar eclipse to get a little more information about what it wants us to reveal. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that I'm sharing the chart of this lunar eclipse. Now, this lunar eclipse happens on March 13th, 2025 at 11:55 p.m. Pacific on March 14th at 2:55 a.m. on the 14th. And so on the East Coast. So if you're up really late, I recommend staying up really late to catch the brilliance of this lunar eclipse. Now, you'll see with this lunar eclipse that the moon is conjunct the south node. Remember that the lunar nodes, north node and the south node, are calculations in the sky. These calculations are the meeting points, the crossing of the elliptics of both the sun and the moon. So the sun and the moon, as they're traveling or as they appear to travel around the earth, they look like they're along the same pathway, but that their angles are slightly off. So during a regular full moon, the earth isn't always in between the sun and the moon. But when a lunation, a new moon or a full moon is near one of the lunar nodes, like this one is 27 degrees the south of Virgo, the south node, and 23 degrees of Virgo for the moon, that's only 4 degrees away. That means that the sun and moon are very aligned on their ecliptic. And when we have that lunation, they're going to be perfectly aligned with the earth. And so you can imagine the earth right in the middle, right in between the moon and the sun. So, of course, this moon, this south node moon, is like, let's get rid of all of these past patterns and reveal these past patterns and how they have controlled us. Now, you might be fully aware of your past patterns, but you might find something new and go, oh, that's what's been keeping me held back. That's kind of the shame and where that came from. I'm super interested in what you'll reveal for yourself. Now, the sun on the opposite hand is next to the north node. Since north node is moved into Pisces, our collective consciousness wants us to stretch into compassion, unity, empathy, and flow. And with the world events right now, you know that we could use so much more of this interconnectedness and this unity because we're not separate people. We're not separate nations. We all are interconnected and depend on each other. The sun is also conjunct Saturn, still in Pisces, who's giving us this idea of like, hey, what are we committing to? How are we going to really focus our energies so that we can bring in more interconnectedness, bring in more unity? Because we have so much power when we are working together. Our micro actions can become macro changes when we all work together. And that's what this Pisces energy is really wanting to come through. And because of the eclipse, this eclipse is now saying, well, what's preventing you from being able to be this committed contributor into the world? What have you been hiding that you're ashamed of or you don't think is good enough yet? That's the hypercriticism of that Virgo patterning that we need to break free from. Now, Virgo's ruler is Mercury, and Mercury at the time of this eclipse is at 9 degrees of Aries. And what this chart does not show you is that Mercury is at a complete standstill. Mercury is moving so slowly in the sky right now because within 24 hours, Mercury is going to be shifting gears and going backwards. Now, Mercury is known to be quick on its feet. And when it's shifting gears from going direct to going backwards, it has to come to a complete stop before it shifts its gears. And it's in these 1 or 2 days where it's stationing. That's why we call it station retrograde, meaning coming to a stop before shifting in retrograde, that Mercury, who's normally quick, all of a sudden has to come to a complete stop. Do you think Mercury likes that? No, Mercury does not like that. And it's okay. So we mitigate it. We work with it. We say, okay, we know that Mercury is going to not be feeling well. That's why we say take our time, tech glitches, traffic glitches, all those things, take your time. And Mercury in Aries Aries already, like action oriented, quick thinking, wants to blaze the trail. Like, don't tell me where to go. We're all speed ahead. And then all of a sudden, Mercury in Aries has to come to a complete stop. Coming to a complete stop, like getting in a traffic jam when you're already in a rush and you're already frustrated can create some road rage. So, gratefully, Venus here, also in retrograde in Aries, is softening that a little bit. But this is going to be a really good day for us to like clear the calendar, make sure we have lots of time, make sure we take a deep breath before we react, because not just you, not just me, everybody on the earth is going to have this kind of like reactivity because of this Mercury retrograde. And so the ruler of this eclipse is like, where have you been frustrated by yourself? Are your frustrations your own frustrations? Are your criticisms, those inner shames, where do they come from? Do they come from society? Do they come from your family? Do they come from your culture? Where do they come from? Because sometimes when we know where they come from, this is where we can then break through. And this is where Uranus comes in. Uranus still in the sign of Taurus, embodiment, earth signs here, trining Uranus, trining this moon. This is already a breakthrough kind of energy with the eclipse, but this breakthrough says it is safe for you to break through. Breakthrough is here for you. It is supporting you right now to break free of all of that internalized patterning. Absolutely. But also because it's a sextile to the sun, it's also saying that in this patterning is a gift. How can you share what you have revealed or what you have learned about your own patterning to say, hey, this is my contribution. I had to go through this so that I could experience this. I'm not going to throw away the lessons that I have learned, but instead I'm going to turn them into gifts. Because ultimately, our greatest gifts and our greatest strengths come from the struggles that we have learned to overcome. So do not be ashamed of your struggles. Turn them into gifts of breakthrough. So, the astrology of this lunar eclipse really adds to the potency and the story and the message of what we are really here to move through. So, when we come back to this meaning of this eclipse, remember a Virgo full moon, whether or not it's an eclipse, always happens during the season of Pisces, of universal love and interconnectedness. And it always tells us that our greatest blocks to our transcendence to rise above, to go beyond, is simply our own self-compassion. During this eclipse, it's a perfect time for you to reveal and look at your wholeness versus your oneness, wellness versus health, flow versus regiment, your avoidance of feeling too much versus your avoidance of feeling at all. All right. And so I want you to really reflect on this. And so as you're doing this, I offer you a eclipse visualization. Now, I invite you to do your own ritual in your own way. Some people say not to do rituals of intention setting per se for eclipses because they're really powerful, but this is more of a reflection and a visualization for this Virgo lunar eclipse. I want you to visualize. I want you to get into a safe space and, of course, move your body in that Virgoan way, mind, body, spirit. Take a few deep breaths. Maybe you want to do this while you're taking a bath for visualization. And I want you to imagine that you're an energy vortex. A vortex is nature's way of moving a lot of energy in a small space, or really conserving the energy so it's well balanced. Maybe this is a cyclone, or maybe this is a whirlpool, or a hurricane, or a school of fish. They're always moving in these patterns of focusing vast and moving vast amounts of energy with the least amount of friction. So I want you to imagine that you're spinning inward into a stillness that sits in the center, that eye of the vortex. I want you to imagine that all your experiences, all of your fears, all of your emotions, all of you are spinning and spinning and spinning, but you, as the observer, are at the center of that eye. As everything is spinning around you, I want you to start to notice what is being kept in, like as a centrifuge, and what is being spun out. I want you to release and allow the things to be spun out, the patterns, those old patterns that you know that no longer serve you, those old belief systems that keep you small, those fears that hold you back. I want you to notice, what does it feel like to be in the center of that eye, to be in the center of that vortex, being the observer, watching everything spin around you? What do you feel in that center? What do you intuit? What do you seem to emotionally understand and know? I want you to notice what is being spun out. What is being spun out that you no longer need? Are there any surprises of the things that are being spun out that you're like, oh, I didn't know I didn't need that anymore. Oh, I didn't know where that came from. Oh, I didn't know that I was holding on to this for so long and it's not even mine. What are you surprised of what is being spun out? How can you remind yourself that you are safe? Safe centered in this eye of the vortex, safe while everything else spins around you. And lastly, as you're spending time in this vortex, noticing everything spinning around you, I also want you to notice what remains, what has stayed in at this vortex within you, centering in with you. Notice how far you have come on your wholeness and wellness journey. Notice how far you have come bringing things to light in your compassion, your self compassion, and your luminary leadership. You have come so far. As you take your next breath, I invite you to release that vortex. Allow the spinning to come to a stop and allow everything to settle. What did you notice? Now, if you still want some more reflections for all your signs, I want you to start to notice, if you know the degree points of where this lunar eclipse will happen, 23 degrees of Virgo, 23 degrees of Pisces, take a look at the houses, the polar opposite houses of your natal chart that contain those degrees. Now, if you reveal that there's a lot of patterns that are holding you back, the best way to move through your fears and to move past all of these patterns is to be with a like-minded group. If you're interested in finding your spiritual business besties, other leaders who love astrology, and a global community of change makers, the doors to my community, Star Powered Circle, are now open. There's several levels of Star Powered Circle. You can join at the community level, where you receive new moon ceremonies, astrology teachings, star hours with me, so I can answer your astrology questions, an amazing community. There's another level that has access to my entire Astro Brand library, and there's another level that is ready to get certified for practitioners who want to integrate the Astro Brand method into their line of work. If you're interested in this global community, doors are open now. Please come join us and take a leap of faith. Head on over to my website, starpower.com/circle. Okay, let's get into these reflections. So again, if you know the houses that contain the 23 point of Virgo and Pisces, listen for for the houses that I'm sharing with you. If not, I invite you to listen to your rising sign, which may or may not be totally accurate depending on the house degree, depending on your rising degree, or always trust your intuition to what calls you. If this eclipse is happening in your first house, seventh axis, you might be a Virgo or Pisces rising. This is the reflection for you is to let go of the inner thoughts that your identity was always aligned with others' expectations. I want you to invite belief in the strength of partnerships where your individuality is respected and honored. If this eclipse is happening mostly in your second house or eighth house, you might be an Aries or Libra rising. And for you, this eclipse is asking you to reflect on how you can let go of ideals that your self-worth is tied to material possessions or what you have. I want you to instead invite the belief in the richness of shared experiences and the value of emotional depth. Now, if this eclipse is happening in your third and or ninth houses, you might be a Taurus or Scorpio rising. And for you, your reflection is to see how you can let go of the thought, that mindset that you must always be right or know everything. And instead, I want you to invite the belief in the value of learning from others and embracing diverse perspectives. If this eclipse is happening in your fourth and 10th house, you might be a Gemini or a Sagittarius rising. This eclipse asks you to reveal how the lies that professional success is incompatible with a nurturing home life, meaning you have to give up your private life in order to have a professional life. And instead, I want you to believe that you can achieve career goals while maintaining strong familial and emotional foundations. If this eclipse is sparking your fifth and 11th house, you might be a Cancer or Capricorn rising. And if this is you, I want you to reflect on how you can reveal the feelings that your excellence is measured by your social impact or popularity, because that is an outdated pattern. You are worth so much more than your social impact or popularity. Instead, I want you to invite the belief that your personal contributions ripple forth and bring change, that even a micro change will have macro impact. And finally, if this eclipse is sparking your 6th and 12th houses, you might be a Leo and Aquarius or Aquarius rising. If this is you, I want you to reflect and reveal how you can let go of the belief that you must constantly be productive to be valuable. And instead, I want you to believe in the importance of rest, reflection, and spiritual growth as your tool of transcendence to next level leadership. Well, my friends, it's been so wonderful to share this eclipse with you, our first of 2 eclipses this eclipse season. I'd love to know what you thought. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe or leave a comment and share your thoughts. And if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, please rate and review. Your rating, review, and comments and subscriptions allow the algorithms that be to know that this is powerful work that deserves to be shared. All right, my friends, thank you so much for listening. It's Leslie Tagorda. I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.
As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.